bringing God the glory. Live for God Studio Productions. This is Living Power Revised.
Marrying Boaz. Now Boaz was the son of a Hebrew man, but his mother, Boaz's mother, was Rahab. Ever hear the name Rahab? Rahab was the harlot of Jericho that helped the Israelite spies defeat Jericho. She wasn't a Jew. So Boaz marries Ruth, who was a Moabite. Boaz is of questionable descent. He's not a pure Jew because his mother is Rahab. And they have a son. Boaz and Ruth have a son. It's taught to us in Ruth chapter 4, verses 21 and 22. Salmon, the father of Boaz. Boaz was the father of Obed. Obed was the father of Jesse. And Jesse was the father of David. Yeah, King David. That's where it came from. An impure line. Oh, and by the way, where did Jesus come from? What lineage did Jesus come from? The line of David. Now, why am I pointing this out? One of the things that we learn very early in the life of Jacob is that often things that we think are so important aren't really important at all. God isn't interested in our pedigree. He is interested in our ready to agree. What God wants out of your life is the willingness for you to do what God seeks out of you. Not your position or how great you are or what you've accomplished or how important you are to the world. That's not important to God. And so we begin to see this problem where Jacob thinks it's important to have this position and God says, no, it's not that important. And it begins with verse 24 in chapter 25 of Genesis. When the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. The first to come out was red. He was red. Isn't it interesting? They didn't say he was wrinkly like most babies. He was red. And his whole body was like a hairy garment. He was a lovely, lovely baby. So they named him Esau. After this, his brother came out with his hand grasping Esau's heel, so he was named Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when Rebekah gave birth to them. Now, I want us to key in on this. What we're going to begin today is opening up this study on this series about Jacob, how Jacob stole the family blessing and inheritance, much to the chagrin of his brother Esau. And he lied and he cheated to get it because he thought it was so important. Look at verse 26. From the very beginning of the story of Jacob, the Bible gives us some insight into what he was like. They gave him the name Yaakov, which comes from the word akab, A-K-A-B, which means to deceive, or it means to trip up. It means to trip. In other words, since he had his brother by the heel, it was the idea like, oh, he's tripping him up. It's like if you put your hand out, your foot, you're walking behind somebody and you put your foot there and trip somebody. That's what the word means. You trip somebody up. You cause them to lose their balance and they fall apart. Well, that's exactly what Jacob did. He was this deceiver. He was this guy who tried to get his way, to trip Esau up and to trip other people up. He did it all the time. As a matter of fact, as we follow the passage, this is what happens. Verse 27. The boys grew up, and Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the open country. Let me say that differently. Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the open country, while Jacob was a quiet man staying among the tents. Jacob was a mama's boy. It's the only way you can read that. He's a guy that stayed home and watched cooking shows on TV. That's what he did, and in fact, the very next thing, he's cooking. That's what he's... what is it with cooking shows, by the way? I don't understand you people who watch cooking shows. Have you ever cooked anything that you've seen, that you've watched them do on TV? I don't understand that. You know, I mean, who watches a cooking show and get something out of it. You stand up. Oh yeah, you do.
On behalf of Dan Hurst and the Open Class, we'd like to thank you for watching. We hope it's a blessing.